And happy Friday to everyone. Just a quick note, because we wanted to make sure we had a briefing today, but the president, as you know, has a very tight schedule. Today he's going to be heading to the CIA, so this is going to be a short briefing, so apologies at the top. But again, we wanted to make sure you guys all had an opportunity to ask your questions. So joining us today is Jen Klein, the director of the White House Gender.
Gather, is the briefing going to continue? And
I'll go a little bit longer for folks
should
who
people
stay.
gather and leave at 1:20?
I believe they should if they want to catch the president.
I know that you just had a reaction to the passing to the death of the Japanese Prime Minister.
Let me just get started, and then I'll come back to you. Okay? Let me just get started with the briefing. We don't have a lot of time. As we know, the president's going to be leaving for CIA pretty soon, and we're going to gather very shortly. But I do want to take a point of privilege and acknowledge Angela Perez, who is going to be leaving us. We have many big things, and as I said, today is her last day, and we love you, Angela. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do.
Talked a little bit about privacy today. Does the president think it's appropriate for protesters to intimidate Supreme Court justices when they're out to eat, like Brett Kavanaugh, who had to sneak out of a steakhouse last night?
We have been pretty clear on this. The president has been very clear. He has signed a piece of legislation making sure that they have the protection that they need.
But you never said don't go to their houses, so as long as they're peaceful. Would you say don't go to a restaurant that a Supreme Court justice is at?
The president has talked about this, and we have put out statements in his name and many times.
If protesters know that a justice is out to eat at a restaurant, that they can go and protest as long as they are what you consider peaceful. That's okay.
Well, we have said that we want to see peaceful protests. That's what we have said. We want to see the protests be peaceful. But
if these protesters can go to a justice's house and they can go to a restaurant, where is it that you don't think it's appropriate for a group of protesters to go?
I just laid out. You asked me peaceful protest. People should be allowed to be able to do that
in a restaurant.
If it's outside of a restaurant, if it's peaceful, for sure.
Really?
Peaceful protest. Your first question to me was intimidation.
So these justices, because protesters do not agree with an opinion that they signed on to, have no right to privacy, is what you're saying.
But Peter, this is people have the right to, this is what a democracy is. People have the right
to privacy?
Of course, people have a right to privacy, but people also have a right to be able to protest peacefully.
Is that
peacefully?
Safe? Is that safe?
Peter,
isn't that creating a potential really bad situation when there are people, even if they're being peaceful at the time, they're angry, and that's why they would be there, right?
Peter, we have condemned any intimidation. We've been very clear on that.
So President Biden
and the president has signed legislation that was passed in a bipartisan way in Congress to make sure that the judges have the protection that they need. I'm done here, Peter. Go ahead.
In many ways, the president's rhetoric today was almost declaring war on the court. He talked about galvanizing women voters especially to act, but he said some things that are kind of unusual for a president who's an institutionalist when you're talking about a co-equal branch of government. Is it the president's view that the court is not apolitical any longer? Is it his view that it is, in fact, motivated by politics in all matters, or just the Dobbs decision?
Well, I'll say this. The president respects the institution. He respects the court. What he believes was unconstitutional, and spoke to this morning and also prior, is their decision. He believes the decision that this court has made is extreme, and it is beyond the pale.
Is it his view that the court is now a politicized body and not an independent judicial panel?
Well, he believes that this was done by royal political power. You heard him say that today, that this decision was not a constitutional decision. It was beyond extreme.
Governor Abbott in Texas issued an executive order today calling on the National Guard and officials there to apprehend undocumented immigrants. So I'm wondering if the administration is planning any legal response, and if you'll prohibit the National Guard from participating.
So I'll say this, the immigration enforcement is a federal authority, and states should not be mandating it, meddling in it. That is just, especially the Texas Governor of Abbott, who has a track record of causing chaos and confusion at the border.
The president has been so sharp in his denunciations of this court's majority. A majority that I don't think is going anywhere anytime soon. If he's so sharply opposed to what they've done, why doesn't he support any changes to this court or this court's majority?
Well, because the president believes the best way to use our political capital is to make sure that we do everything that we can to get Congress to act, make sure that we do everything we can to get pro-choice Democrats in the Senate, pro-choice Democrats in the House, to really codify Roe into law. That's why he's calling on the American people to go to the ballot box and get their voices heard.
You've discussed multiple times that the only way to sort of restore Roe is through legislative action and electing more Democrats, which I think is undeniably true based on the sort of math. But in the period, before the ruling was issued, there was an effort by some Republican senators to pass a sort of scaled down bill. We heard the president today talk passionately about it. Is the administration at all interested in engaging with Republicans on a smaller bore bill that might protect less than Roe, undeniably less than you and abortion activists want, but more than exists after the ruling?
So I don't have anything to share right now about what we would do that's less than Roe. The president's priority right now is to make sure we codify Roe.